Hello there, everybody. And today I'm here to do the 50th anniversary of one of Steven Spielberg's best movies of all time, Jaws. And I couldn't do this alone. I brought on my friend Little Blue Eli. Hello there.
Hello, it's good to be a part of this stream and being review collabing on if not one of Spielberg's top gems and definitely in the Mount Rushmore of Spielberg's movie masterpieces.
Yes, well agreed. So, I might as well let's talk about our history of Jaws. What's your history with Jaws?
Well, I don't really know because I don't have that much memory of the very first time I had known about Jaws and the very first time I watched it. I know for one thing, even before I saw the movie itself, I had heard a little bit of that iconic Jaws theme, and I know I probably seen a few images of course, the poster in which I'm using for my avatar on the stream. But yeah, of course, when I did see the film, of course, I enjoyed it, even over the years, and the more I've seen it and such, as yeah, how much of a great film this is, definitely a top masterpiece of Spielberg's, and definitely Jaws is what really launched him into high gear as a director. Um, Not to mention that the Jaws would be Spielberg's second theatrical film because the first was Sugarland Express, and then came this. And after doing Jaws, he would continue making a big name of himself. Making more iconic masterpiece of films. But with Jaws itself, with what it has to offer, and the shark that is the main antagonist of this film, and with some great human characters, great performances from, say, Roy Scheider, Richard Dreyfuss, Robert Shaw, everybody else, and Spielberg's direction, and the fact that the majority of the film, pretty much, being filmed out in the actual ocean, and because despite all the troubles that the crew went through trying to film this thing in the actual ocean, and the problems they had most prominently with the animatronic shark nicknamed Bruce, they still made one success of a film. And even to this day, because still loved by so many. And even though for, say, Spielberg, with how he feels about Jaws to this day. Very it's very he's very mixed about it. Even especially since I heard where he regrets making the film because of how people treat sharks. But that's on them because people, how they treat sharks and the aftermath of the film being released. Just, yeah, that's on them. But despite that, still. Jaws is definitely, without a doubt, just a masterpiece of a film of Spielberg's. Like I said, the Mount Rushmore of Spielberg's movies. Just, yeah, what more do I really have to say? So yeah.
Uh, for me, my family loves Jaws. We have the movie on DVD and Blu-ray. We Jaws the board game, the
Mm.
poster. I don't know. We just love Jaws. It's been a part of the house forever. And when I saw it as a kid, it's always, I guess, made me afraid of the ocean. Even though I've never been to the beach, I'd
Ah.
love to one day. But when I think of the beach, I think of sharks. And because of the movie, it it became a cult classic, like you said. Steven Spielberg did not disappoint with this movie. When he was starting to make movies himself, and he would later go on to make Indiana Jones, one of my favorites. Steven Spielberg's done. But if I had to pick another Steven Spielberg movie, it would definitely be Jaws. Like my number
Yep.
one, like Indiana Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And do you view this movie as a horror movie?
I think, yeah. I guess so, but in hindsight, it wouldn't really be considered in the horror genre or something like that. From what I've known and others that I've talked to when talking about Jaws, just yeah. But that's not to say because to anybody in their opinion, viewing it as like something horror-ish, and well, I mean, especially since the shark attacking and killing its victims, very gruesome and such, and with a lot of blood. Just
Yeah,
yeah,
because if this movie came out today, it would probably be PG-13.
more than likely, yeah.
Yeah. So I think we talked about our history of Jaws, but we might as well just go over the movie itself.
Yep.
So it it opens with a group of, I think, teenagers hanging out at the beach late at night. But
Campfire.
then two two of the teens decide to go out swimming late at night,
Mm-hmm.
but things go wrong as we see the lady. I don't know her name or who she's played by. I think she passed away recently, if I recall.
Yes, yeah, she did. Yeah, a couple years ago. Yeah, Susan Baccalini as Chrissy.
Yeah, basically, like goes into the water while the man stays put, drunk,
Mm-hmm.
but then where we get that iconic scene where the shark comes out of nowhere and starts to eat her, and then she literally dies.
Yeah.
So yeah, did you feel that death was shocking?
Well, I'm not sure if I felt it, but there's no denying that. Yeah, because with it being such an intense moment, and we don't see the shark at first, but with Susan Baccalini's performance and some like contraptions that were underwater, like holding her down or something, just yeah, and the performance that she delivers, and with John Williams' music accompanying that, just oh
Yeah,
yeah, it's just so great.
yeah. John Williams is an amazing composer, not just for Star Wars, Indiana Jones, but also with Jaws.
Yeah, and definitely, like for Williams, because it was this and Star Wars that made him go big time. But yeah, I mean, especially I think even like when I talked with each of my parents on their first introduction to the music of John Williams, well, both of them said Star Wars. Now,
Mm,
even though my parents and anybody else who had seen Jaws, well, obviously they heard the music that Williams did, but not really having full knowledge that it was this music being done by this man named John Williams. But until Star Wars came along, just yeah, one of those things.
yeah,
And
the
and that I was just going to say in that same year, because not only did Williams have the music and scored for Star Wars, but also there was another Spielberg film, which being Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
I think. So what do we go to next? Where we meet Roy Scheider's character, Chief Brody.
Yeah, might as well talk about Chief Brody.
Okay, so Chief Brody is probably the best protagonist in this whole series because, if I gotta be honest, I only like the first Jaws movie. The others are just meh for me. But the standout for these movies is definitely Roy Scheider as a Chief Brody. What do you got to say about him?
Well, I mean, for one thing, you're right. I couldn't have said it better myself because being the best protagonist, and because and whom would become the one who became the hero, defeating the shark once and for all. That that made its way to Amity Island, and yeah, with Roy Scheider, with what he brings to the performance of Chief Brody, even in the first Jaws sequel, still because there's no denying because Roy Scheider was such a great actor, and definitely because Jaws just being one of those top films of that he was in that just made him a big name, and you know the great character driven of Chief Brody, and with what goes on in this movie, just it's overall just fantastic.
Yeah, it's just I like how it portrays he's not just the police chief; he's also a father who does care for his family. And willing to care for them and not have them go into the water so they don't get eaten by a shark.
Yeah.
But I don't know which should we go? Should we go to his wife as well?
Yeah, sure.
Uh, Ellen Brody, that's her name, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, who she's? I'm not good with names, but
Yeah. Well, don't worry. I'll pull it up, so I'll look it up. But yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, because like with how much we get of Ellen Brody, yeah, being played by Lorraine Gary, she she was another pretty good character, and the chemistry between her and Brody, they make they're a great loving couple, and they're also parents, and the fact that Brody, you know, he and his family they first came from New York, and then finding themselves in the Amity Island, that became a chief, and Brody becoming a chief on the Amity Island, and moments with Ellen is pretty good. And even like say the more we would see of her, like in the next Jaws film, and then up to Jaws 4, where she would become the one of the main characters and protagonist in Jaws: The Revenge.
yeah,
Yeah, but just overall, because like with Brody being aware and getting down to the case of a shark attack, and even when like say he's keeping an eye out for those who are going out on the beach because yeah, and that's that part where everybody's out on the beach, in the ocean, most prominently Alex, and then when the shark comes in, just ugh, yeah,
it's definitely brutal. That's the reason why I myself was afraid of sharks. Because like, imagine if you're just a kid who gets attacked by a shark and then ooh, it's just goes out like that. It's just terrible.
yep.
And I don't know. Do you remember the dog in Jaws? Like
Well, of course, yeah.
Pippin. I don't know what happened to Pippin. It suggested that he was eaten by the shark. Do you think he was eaten by the shark?
Well, of course he was eaten by the shark, yeah.
It was like we don't see the blood or anything, but like we just see the stick.
Yep.
Yeah, he was a good boy.
Mm-hmm.
It was sad he got eaten by the shark. And then Alex. Did you know that like the kid who played Alex, he would go on to own his own fish shop, and he actually met the lady who played his mother years later.
Yes, I did know that. Yep.
Yeah, you know that story.
Mm-hmm.
I think she actually passed away from COVID,
She did.
unfortunately,
She did. Yeah.
during the pandemic. It was sad, but
Yeah.
I'm surprised she lived so long. But it was
Yep.
she probably got to see the legacy of Jaws go on.
Oh, I'm sure as though, yeah.
Yeah. So like he like goes on a raft, and then everyone else is just having fun, and Chief Brody's distracted. But once Alex gets eaten by the shark, that's where the movie gets real intense because the
Yep.
shark is just choosing its victims.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, if you don't know, sharks attack surfers because they think they're food.
Yeah.
But in this movie, it's portrayed as like a predator,
Mm-hmm.
and just the way it killed the girl, Alex, it just shows how bloody it is. And once we see that raft float onto the water, it's just ooh,
Yeah.
yeah. So you got anything else to say? Are you good?
No, I think I'm good.
So I think this leads to everyone in town wanting this shark to be hunted down, but the mayor is not really taking it seriously.
Yeah,
But
and there's a few others in Amity Island that think that this is nonsense, like being political on if the shark if there was a shark attack and such.
yeah, and I think this is where meet we meet Quint.
Yep.
He's basically the I think he's played by Robert Shack. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Robert Shaw. Yeah.
Yeah. When did he pass away? I'm pretty sure he
He passed
passed.
away he passed away literally in the late 1970s.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
He only died a couple years after this movie came out.
Yep. He
Uh,
did.
yeah. But what do you guys say about uh I'm sorry, I'm having a brain fart. Shaw.
Well, I mean, for one thing, yeah, Quint is another interesting character in the fact because quite the expert on sharks and a great shark hunter,
Hmm.
and especially because like the his introduction was so great, and just yeah, like what a way for him to for this character to have his introduction just like literally scraping on the chalkboard, and then just
Yeah,
y'all know me, know how I earn a living, and just I'll catch this bird for you, but ain't gonna be easy. Just yeah,
yeah,
the dialogue that he goes into, just yeah, and even when eventually like when they don't when like Quint is not hired to catch the shark, others that are trying to hunt down the shark. Well, at one point they think they've hunted and killed the shark, but it's not that shark. It's a different shark, and it's
yeah. The
not big.
tiger shark.
Yeah, that's right, and it's not big enough. And even like there's a moment where Quint can see this, and he's laughing because he knows they've caught the wrong shark. So
Yeah, it's just yeah. For me, I do like Quint's character. I just love how he's not a rookie. He is willing to do the job just to take out the shark, and you can just tell he's experienced once he scratches on those chalkboard. I don't like when people scratch their nails on a chalkboard. It's cringe. It's a cringe sound.
yeah, surprisingly, the way the sound of the chalkboard, him scraping on the chalkboard in Jaws, it actually that also goes for my dad. It doesn't bother either of us.
Yeah, it's just like a weird pet peeve.
Yeah,
But I think once people are going out looking for the shark, I think like two fishermen tried to take out the shark, but instead they almost get eaten themselves.
yeah. Even one of them that tried to go after the shark, Ben Gardner, and he met an ugly fate. So
Yeah, but I think after this scene we meet, you might as well talk about Hooper. Want to talk about him?
yeah, Hooper being played by Richard Dreyfuss because yeah, him being an expert on sharks as well,
Yeah,
and with him and Brody crossing paths. Yeah, because and Hooper being an oceanographer and shark enthusiast, and he is hired by Brody and to help catch the great white. Um, and their first attempts on trying to locate and find the shark. Well, even like say when those at the enemy island caught the wrong shark. Well, Hooper and Brody wanted to check to see if any remains of Alex is inside the shark, and what they found is pretty much none of that. And once
yeah.
again, yeah, it's not the exact same shark. So
So yeah, they captured the tiger shark. This is where Chief Brody and Hooper team up. They form a dynamic where they're gonna try to hunt this shark.
yep.
And what really takes a big turn in this movie is where the mayor, I think, decides to not close the beaches
Yeah,
because
especially because like it's coming around that time of Fourth of July, and everyone like around the world, just like coming to the Amity Island for to spend the holiday and such of Fourth of July, and yeah, because and besides, they've all and the Amity Island has always celebrated Fourth of July for tourists and such, and yeah, like no way is the mayor gonna let that not happen where it'll be closed and such, and so you know Brody and Hooper just having a complete argument about towards the mayor, and oh no, of course, can't forget to mention like the sign of Amity Island because you know a few people like painted on that eek a shark, like you know what I'm talking about.
yeah, I've seen the sign. Once they
Yeah, but yeah, just overall because like with like just like they're really not getting any good luck trying to convince and negotiate with the mayor. Well, I mean, up till when like say the mayor will allow to keep everything precautious and have those to keep an eye out if the shark does emerge and such. But as the mayor says, those beaches will be open this weekend. So
Hmm.
yeah.
think what happens next is everyone's having fun at this event. We even see like a shark arcade. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Thought that was cool. An arcade back in the day.
Yep.
But things take a big turn when Brody's son, I think his name's Michael, he goes on the boat with a group of kids, and
Yeah.
everyone's fine until a giant fin shows up, and this is like where it's revealed it was just two kids playing around with a pretend shark, just as like a prank, and there's like a bunch of cops with guns on boats, just a prank. But then this is where we get the real shark, and
Mm-hmm.
we get this infamous scene. I don't know. My dad likes to make fun of this scene where it's this guy who yells at the kids, going, "Hey, you kids, okay over there?" Remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Fun guy.
And and for some reason, I was just gonna say, for some reason, because like when we see him get attacked and killed by the shark, like it didn't seem like he was wearing any shoes. Because when we cut to seeing his leg, he was wearing a shoe. But yeah, I don't really know.
Yeah, I didn't realize you noticed that.
Yeah.
When I was rewatching it last night, I actually noticed the shark come up in below the water and then eat the guy's leg when he tips over.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure he dies.
He does. Yeah.
Yeah, and his leg just sinks to the bottom. I forgot to also mention when we also I forgot Brody and Hooper tried to go investigate late at night on a boat, and they tried to go underwater, but then they find like a dead body. I'm pretty sure.
Which that being Ben Gardner.
Yeah. So so I think what happens next is Michael passes out from shock.
Yeah, he was lucky to not get attacked by the shark because it passes by him literally, and he is in shock.
Yeah. And then he's taken to the hospital.
Hmm.
And then this is the last straw for Brody as he's decided he's going to go after the shark.
Yeah, and especially when he then talks to the mayor and just like telling him to sign and for Quint to be hired, and at least like things toned down, and for the mayor because the mayor mentioning to Brody that his kids were also on that beach, so the fact that his kids survived as well from but by any chance getting attacked by the shark. So yeah, and well, I mean, because like it's not like the mayor intentionally meant for that to happen, and for those kids, like everybody risking their lives to if they were to by any chance get attacked by the shark. Yeah, but overall, because Brody having Quint signed for having the mayor signed for Quint to be hired, and from there on, just yeah, Quint is hired now officially to hunt down the shark, and of course, tagging along with Quint is Hooper and Brody.
Yeah. So, so Brody gets ready to leave and he says goodbye to his wife, of course. And then they set off on Quint's boat.
Yep, and the rest of that movie is literally just the three of them out in the ocean and with the shark. So
Yeah, this is where the movie gets really good. We're kind of just when I'm watching Jaws, I'm like anticipating when they're gonna get on the boat and to go after the shark.
hmm.
But yeah. Did you want to say what happens, or do I go?
Well, I mean, no. Go ahead, continue.
So they go out in the boat. Things are going quiet, and they start to throw like random meats in the ocean. But when once once Brody throws just a little bit more in there, he see that we get this jump scare of the shark coming out of the.
Yeah, and of course, when he backs up and then turns to Quint and saying an iconic line in the film, and actually, as I recall, yeah, that was improvised by Roy Scheider, where he says, you're going to need a bigger boat.
Yeah, we're gonna need a bigger boat. I love that line. I think when my sister bought the Jaws Lego set, like the Lego idea set, it actually has that line as like a sticker you can put on the set for your collectible. I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah, so yeah. Check out the Jaws set. It looks really good.
Mm-hmm.
But what else
Yeah.
goes on?
Well, and I'll cut it. I'll come in and say this because at times what was with the three of them on the Orca, because sometimes like especially Hooper and Quint, they're not on good odds, but
Yeah.
eventually even like say when one sequence in the evening time where they're inside the Orca and they're having some pretty good chats. That's when because they start to you know bond and have good chemistry with each other, and that of course goes for Hooper and Quint. Especially since they get along pretty well, but when it comes to them trying to hunt and take down the shark, that's when because they're in that mood of taking down the shark in their specific ways. um and
Yeah.
even Quint sharing like his days serving in World War II, and the specific submarine and the navy and such that he served on. Just it's an interesting story.
Mhm. I think this is like revealed like when they're just drinking in the middle of the night.
Yep. And of course, when they're singing, "Show me the way to go home." Yeah, that was a great moment.
Yeah, that was probably my favorite scene when they start drunk and start to sing that song.
Yep.
I think later while they're singing this song, they end up accidentally causing the ship to, I don't know, get a little damaged.
Yeah.
And is this where the shark comes back?
Yeah, kind of. But also, like, still, their attempts to try to, take down the shark, especially, like, sending out, like, beacons or, in yellow barrels and for it to be attached to the shark. So, yeah, because they can follow the shark, like, those moments. And other
Mhm.
moments where, like, one moment where Quint sitting down a chair with a fishing rod, and he even like notices that it starts to move just a bit at times, and he starts to gear himself up, strap himself in, and while Brody's like learning to tie a knot, and the suspense building, and just right at that moment, that's when the shark gets a hold of like the string of the rod of the fishing rod, and just that was a great moment right there.
Yeah, I think like Oh wait, no, Hooper gets hit by the rope and it actually hurts him. And I thought that scene was painful.
Uh-huh.
But like, don't they like lose the shark, and this is where it causes them to want to use diving gear for
Yeah.
Hooper.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, I even saw like the behind the scenes of how they were gonna that scene.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure didn't like Hooper almost drown while filming?
Not really. In fact, because and not to mention, like, also to mention this because a moment where you know Quint damaged the radio system, just for them to be in contact with those on the Amity Island, because breaking that, and well, he had his specific reasons, but just Brody just snapping at him, just But then when it comes to like say, might as well, since bringing this up, where at a certain point Hooper getting in a shark cage and trying to once again go after the shark. And well, I mean, because ultimately with the shark, with Bruce the shark, destroying the cage, and well, luckily for Hooper, he does manage to survive and hiding somewhere hidden, in the underwater from the shark. And even when like Quint and Brody they pull up the shark cage back up because, well, I mean, they believe that the shark got Hooper, and then just when it comes to say the shark, then going after Hooper and Brody, because by this point, like the orca's kind of starting to sink some, and that's the opportunity for the shark to attack, and thus and with the weight of the shark's body and the orca just sinking some more, and I'm sorry, Quint slipping and then meeting his ugly demise, getting eaten by the shark.
Yeah, the Quint dies. It's like brutal to watch. It was probably the most brutal. Would you say it's like the most brutal death in the whole movie?
I mean, it's one of them, yeah.
Yeah, like blood just comes out of his mouth, and then he's just torn apart.
And to think, because the shark hunter, the great shark hunter Quint, gets killed, by the shark.
Yeah, all is left standing is Chief Brody.
Yep. And the shark trying to go after Brody, but then at one point, when Brody's defending himself and even like throwing in a tank inside the shark's mouth, and then yeah, the more the orca sinks, he grabs a rifle and makes his way on top of the orca, and yeah, because having put that tank in, shoving the tank in the shark's mouth, well, that's the opportunity for to using the rifle to shoot directly at the tank, and then when just smile, you son of a bee, just shooting, and the shark exploding.
Yeah, the shark is the devil. I just love that line of Brody. That's probably the best line he said in the whole movie. Well, besides
Oh,
the need a bigger boat.
oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the shark dies, and the way I always wondered how big the shark looked. But once he died, like it's just a smoke of blood just comes out,
Mm-hmm.
and then the shark dies, and then we thought it was just Brody who was left, but no, it turns out Hooper survived.
Yep, he did.
The two,
And even after, because after, with Hooper, with Brody seeing that Hooper survived, and they have a laugh about it, and you know Hooper asking about Quint, and just Brody telling that Quint didn't make it, and but just on like seeing some bits and pieces of the orca, and like kind of like putting them together, and thus making their way back to the Amity Island.
yeah, movie ends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are pretty. We went pretty quick on our recap.
Yeah, that I quite didn't expect.
Yeah, because usually,
But I mean, there could be more we can talk about. If there's anything more left, we have to talk about Jaws, like some fun facts and some behind the scenes stuff. That'd be fine.
yeah, I'm pretty sure they didn't they use like a besides they also did like animatronic shark, and that was like difficult to do.
Well, I mean, well, I mean, like I said, like you know, everybody, like anybody that knows the history and facts when it came to the making of Jaws, because like them having built an animatronic shark, and a lot of times the shark in the ocean water would not work, and most prominently Richard Dreyfuss, who plays Hooper, he always talks about this whenever like the shark would break down, because radio frequencies that would be going, the shark is not working, the shark is not working. But if the shark would be working, then it would be like, the shark is working, the shark is working. I just love what Richard Dreyfuss says about his storytellings of the making of Jaws, and well, not to mention that not only with the shark not working at times, like because not everybody like had a great time working out on the ocean, and even like most of them being seasick, like that too, and even like with the frequent delays and the film being behind schedule, but at the same time, and in the end, them managing to pull through and managing to finish this movie, and and also because, well, not only did they use an animatronic shark, but they also did. There's a little bit of actual footage of a real life shark.
Yeah,
Um, Specifically at the part where Hooper's in the in the shark cage. And there's this Australian, uh, doctor or something. I know who she is, but I can't place her name at this moment. But she got involved. Her and her husband were involved in the making of Jaws and helping out the crew on sharks, and they were responsible for filming actual live footage of a shark. And when the film came out, they went on numerous like news shows and talk shows, and to basically tell everyone that sharks are harmless. Like, if you don't bother them, they won't bother you. Because of course,
yeah,
after the release of Jaws, people were afraid to go back in the water and viewing sharks as a threat. and
Yeah.
people starting to hunt sharks and so on. But just yeah, but even though they went on those shows, talk shows, news shows, to tell the world that sharks are not dangerous, like if as long as you don't bug them. Well, despite that, nobody listens still, and that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Just it's unfortunate the way people do treat sharks.
Hmm.
It's like it just harms the environment of the, I don't know, the, what's it called, the animal chain.
Yeah, I believe so. The Animal Chain or Animal Kingdom, whichever which.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, yeah, we definitely should treat sharks better. And if you are out in the ocean, my advice to anybody who watches this, just be careful. Just be
Of
careful.
course, yeah.
Just, you never know.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's my little message for anybody.
Yep.
But after
Um.
this movie, oh, were you gonna say something?
No, no, no. Go ahead.
Okay, so ever since the first Jaws movie, they did do sequels, and I guess I don't know, people didn't thought Jaws 2 was okay. Jaws 3 was and 4 were reviewed as like bad movies, and then after that, they now people who love Jaws, ever since this first movie that got the horrors of going up against a shark. They now made sci-fi has made like tons of bizarre shark movies, if you know what I mean, the Sharknado movies.
Yeah. Or even most prominently, because there's been, say, 1999's Deep Blue Sea, and there's been the Meg movies, and
Yeah,
I mean, even even other shark movies. Some of them have turned out, pretty good and not bad, but they can all not top off what is the definitive shark movie, which being the first and original Jaws.
all right, well said. It's just like movies like Sharknado just make me realize that I do appreciate the first Jaws movie a lot more because of how simple it was.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this, Anchorman, because have you seen any of the Jaws sequels?
I did. I haven't seen them in years though.
Yeah, actually, there was one time where my mom and we actually watched all three Jaws sequels, kind of like almost in a row. Like in the next couple of days, we watched Jaws 2, then the third, and then the fourth. Just yeah,
Yeah. Did
I
you
guess I
like them?
well, I was about to say because I guess I seem to recall I thought they were okay. I especially thought Jaws 2 and Jaws: The Revenge. I thought they were okay, and it really feels like that. I think it is established that Jaws: The Revenge is really the third Jaws film. But as for Jaws 3D, because yeah, sadly that one had really bad luck.
Yeah, just the CGI shark just look. Wait, no, not CGI.
No,
It's like,
it's just terrible practical looking effect shark.
yeah, we get that one infamous shot of the shark, and it just looks so bad.
Because it's supposed to be it's supposed to be a 3D effect, but it doesn't look that good.
Yeah, it just looks really weird.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, especially the fact that the whole movie takes place in SeaWorld. Just yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
even with what the nostalgia critic had to say about that when he talked about Jaws 3D and when mentioning the fact that Jaws 3D takes place in SeaWorld, just how would you like that advertised? Go to SeaWorld to die. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like it's just meant. It's like they couldn't even get Jaws right. They just wanted to make some silly shark movie. Honestly.
Yeah. Fun fact, technically SeaWorld is I believe so. Yeah, I don't know. Because I feel like okay, I know that I feel because I know especially in Orlando, Florida, with the theme parks, um, there's at least two or three that with other theme parks and such, um, and yeah, I don't know, but I mean, okay, because I believe so. Yeah, Busch Gardens has a link or something to SeaWorld. Because I was thinking yeah, with Universal and SeaWorld, but I don't know. I kind of my bad, but But that's very interesting because, like, yeah, because one of the Sea Worlds, I forget the specific Sea World that was used for the setting of Jaws 3D, but yeah, very interesting. Um, well, not to mention, speaking of which, because yeah, I mean, I know for probably both of us, never having experienced this at the Universal parks, but obviously, you know, I'm sure for you, Anchorman, because you're well aware, because like one of the one of the gem attractions of the Universal parks was the Jaws ride.
Yeah, have you been to Universal?
Never have. Even as of the stream, never have.
Yeah, I see. It's probably expensive.
Yeah, but because like I can speak on behalf of the Jaws ride because the numerous of videos and stuff on the internet that we've seen where yeah, I mean the Jaws attraction was pretty interesting because like you're kind of like touring around the Amity Island and when like out of nowhere a shark emerges and your skipper just so happens like on the boat there's a weapon to take down the shark and just yeah pretty interesting especially like the fact because the animatronic sharks in the Jaws ride were just, of course, a highlight. But also, remnants and remains of Jaws being at the Universal parks at Orlando, but most prominently at Universal Studios Hollywood because they have the backlot tour, and one of the biggies for the backlot tour is the Jaws section, and where a little bit of the Amity Island is there, and a bit of action happens, and where animatronic of the shark rises out of the water and just yeah, just really really cool. Um,
Nice.
yeah, and with the closure and the closure of the Jaws attraction at Universal Studios Orlando. Well, because yeah, I mean, I'm sure as you know this, Anchorman, because a lot of Harry Potter stuff and Universal, because yeah, the Jaws attraction was closed to make way for the second new installment of the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, which being Diagon Alley. So yeah,
Yeah,
um,
also has a lot of Harry Potter stuff.
hmm yeah. I mean, like it's not that I'm complaining. I just it's really cool to see, um, especially because like what's over at Epic Universe, like over at Epic Universe, because they have the Ministry of Magic, which is really cool. Um, but coming back to Jaws, because like yeah, not to mention that because with the 50th anniversary of Jaws. Um, at the Universal parks, like having some special like Jaws stuff. Not to mention like literal meet and greets of Hooper, Brody, and Quint, which is pretty interesting. Um, and yeah, and coming back to the Jaws sequels because yeah, um, you know, I'm sure that for the Jaws sequels, they could have been a heck of a lot better and had better luck and such. Even on account of some returning cast members, like most prominently Roy Scheider for Jaws 2, and then like say when it came to Jaws 4, we had say Lorraine Gary come back, and that would actually be her last film that she would do, and
Who?
the fact that Michael Caine was in Jaws: The Revenge is pretty interesting.
Oh, that was Ellen Brody's last movie.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
She's retired.
Well, yeah, ever since.
Yeah, Jaws 4 was a bizarre movie. I've even watched Chris Stuckman's review of Jaws 4 and how crazy it is, and he was crazed that Michael Caine was in Jaws 4.
But did you also see the Nostalgia Crooks review of Jaws 4?
I may have seen bits and pieces of it.
Yeah.
This is it's like one of his famous reviews.
Yeah, well, it's in his top, best reviews he's done.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, even of course the Nostalgia Critic, because he's reviewed Jaws 3D and Jaws 4, and you know, obviously for the Nostalgia Critic, yeah, just finding those two Jaws films just horrible.
Who found them horrible?
The Nostalgia Critic, I just
Oh
said.
yeah, I agree. It's just like ever since it's only the first Jaws movie I really like appreciate the that I only appreciate the first Jaws movie. The rest are just meh for me.
Yeah.
And like it's just crazy that we do have so many crazy over the top cheap shark movies all because they love Jaws.
Yeah. I think it's obvious. Have we not had Jaws? Probably more than likely we wouldn't have other, films that have to do with sharks in that
Yeah,
way,
we wouldn't get the Sharknado movies.
or the two Meg films.
Yeah. I mean, do you like how do you feel about the Sharknado?
Well, as of this stream, I actually have yet to watch a single full like, like fully watch the Sharknado films, especially the first one. But I
Yeah, they're
have seen
really bad, but they're kind of just fun movies to watch with your friends.
a guilty pleasure to watch, or also there's that saying, it's so bad it's good.
Yeah, it's just one of those kinds of movies.
Yeah. I mean, I of course did see the Nostalgia Critics, both him and Brad. Cinema Snob. Their review of the first Shark. I've seen bits and pieces of their review of the first Sharknado.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it honestly encourages me to watch Sharknado.
Yeah.
It's probably on like Tubi or whatever. But yeah, that's yeah. So that's Jaws' 50th anniversary. So what do you give Jaws out of 10?
Well, I mean, because my dad and we did our review of Jaws on the Little Blue channel, and I believe, yeah, obviously my dad, he does 5 out of 5, so he gives it 5 out of 5 stars, and for me, well, and just like how many stars I gave it for me and his review of Jaws on the Little Blue channel, it's not it hasn't changed. Because I give it a 10 out of 10.
Same. I don't know. My family thinks I don't like Jaws because I don't like shark. I think sharks are sharks are scary. That's just not true. I do like the first Jaws movie.
Yeah.
Really, yeah. That's just I don't know. Funny story. My math teacher actually said she was afraid of sharks because once she saw this when she was a kid, she was now afraid of sharks. So
Uh,
it's just wild that teachers that who are much older than me were able to see Jaws
hmm.
at such a young age, and then now they're older, they can reflect on the movie years later.
Yep.
I mean, did your dad see Jaws when he was younger?
Well, I mean, yeah, he stated in our review of Jaws that he didn't see it in theaters, but he saw it back when what's the name of it again? Oh, yeah. It almost slipped on my head. Drive-in movie theaters. He had
Yeah, I
yeah.
love those. I also saw Jaws at the drive-in theater a couple years ago. That was a lot of
Cool.
fun.
Yeah, so my dad had that experience because yeah, and, seeing Jaws at drive-in movie theater, even like, and fun fact, Tom Cruise, I think he had that same experience too, seeing Jaws, and especially since I remember most prominently in the behind the scenes of Spielberg's The Minority Report, Tom Cruise talking about how much he got a kick out of Jaws and the work and admiring the work of Spielberg, and as I recall, with what he said and how he specifically saw Jaws was at the drive-in movie theater, and just yeah, and obviously for Cruise that was such a great opportunity to be working alongside with Spielberg and to be the main star of a movie being directed by Spielberg, and again that being The Minority Report. So.
Yeah, that's a cool experience for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, especially because and obviously because a lot of others whom had admired the work of Spielberg and the privilege and honor to work alongside with him. Um, And not to mention, speaking more of Spielberg, because I also feel like mentioning this because, yeah, I mean, Jaws making its way to like the award ceremonies and like being nominated and winning some awards, and most prominently, and actually, it's on YouTube where there's some recorded footage of Spielberg and others like watching, Jaws, being nominated. Like, yeah, because the whole thing of the Oscars where the nominations would be announced, and which movies have been nominated for this and that, and Spielberg, like his reaction to not getting nominated for Best Director, but other nominations that Jaws got, even Jaws having been nominated for Best Picture.
It
Um,
did.
yeah, but of course it didn't get that win. So,
Yeah.
but but for luckily, even after a couple of other films like that Spielberg directed, like most prominently Raiders of the Lost Ark and E.T. the Extraterrestrial, those did get Oscar nominations, including Best Picture. But fast forward, yeah, Spielberg would eventually, manage to direct a film that would win quite a lot of Oscars, including Best Director and Best Picture, and that, of course, being another Universal Pictures film, which being Schindler's List.
Yeah. I've yet to see Schindler's List. I heard it's like really good.
Yeah, but I'm sure you already, Anchorman, you're obviously aware because, the film being based off of the story of, the Holocaust and
Yeah.
Oscar Schindler.
Yeah. That's what I
Yeah.
heard.
Well,
It's
I
like a
mean,
black and white movie.
yeah, it is. And brace yourself because, man, it's so gut wrenching. It really is.
Yeah. Those kinds of movies are depressing.
Mm-hmm. And how do you? I mean, how do you? I don't think we've ever. I don't think we've ever talked about this. Like, how do you handle on movies like those? And if, like, do you not get emotional or anything like that? Just what I mean.
I've seen uh I've seen a little bit of The Pianist, and that movie was just depressing. And
Yeah.
I've seen like a movie of Anne Frank, and like they actually showed the Holocaust scenes, and that was probably the most depressing I've ever seen for a movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've never really cried during movies, but
Meaning,
like the only movies I've cried is like Marley and Me and Turner and Hooch.
oh, yeah, because yeah, especially because those movies. Well, the dogs and yeah, especially because with what happens to each of those dogs.
Yeah, it's just like it reminds me perfectly of my relationship with my dog, so that's why it touched me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was completely off topic, but I'm glad we talked about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, do you got anything else to say about Jaws, or you think you're good?
Well, I think just overall, the final words and thoughts to say about Jaws is that there's no denying that without a doubt, and even to this day still, Jaws is hailed as a classic of Spielberg's, and definitely in the Mount Rushmore of Spielberg's films, and being one of the biggies for Universal and Spielberg. There had never been a movie like Jaws, and especially since in the 1970s, it was definitely the decade of movies where, yeah, a lot of them being game changers, and Jaws being one of them. And and keep in mind because Jaws being based off of a book, and well, even not to mention that the author of Jaws making a cameo in Jaws as a news reporter, because at the
I'll
Fourth
show
of
you. I did not know that.
yeah, at the Fourth of July celebration on the Amity Island, that's him as like that news reporter.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I
you
heard
know,
Jaws was based off a book.
yeah, even in me and my dad's review of Jaws on the Blue Channel, yeah, it was after seeing Jaws the movie where he did buy and read the book of Jaws, and
Oh, nice.
with what my dad specifically described in our review, just yeah, and some changes and differences, in comparison to how the movie would be, just yeah, but at the same time, like because with the movie turning out pretty good, and obviously the author of Jaws being very pleased with how the movie turned out, and yeah, just everything from beginning to end on what the movie itself is like, and to anybody who had read the book, just it's amazing, and despite the three Jaws sequels that came out, with them having bad luck, just yeah, there's only one definitive Jaws film, and for that matter, one definitive shark movie, no hard feelings on those other shark movies that came out, like say, Sharknado, Deep Blue Sea, The Meg, or might as well mention it, Shark Tale, but still, um, and with great chemistry, great performances, from Roy Scheider, Richard Dreyfuss, Robert Shaw, all of the other cast members, John Williams' music and score, the cinematography, the way they did this movie, the practical effects of the shark, the intenseful stuff, the gruesome stuff, the shocking moments, just everything about the first Jaws movie is without a doubt one of the a top movie masterpiece of Spielberg's,
Yes.
Universal, movies in general.
So yeah, well said.
And any last words you've got about
But
Jaws?
yeah, I really like Jaws. It's definitely one of my favorite Spielberg movies. I feel when I think of, like I said earlier, when I think of Steven Spielberg, I definitely think of Jaws or Jurassic Park or Indiana Jones. But this movie was definitely iconic for its time, and it still is iconic. People still celebrate this movie to this very day, and it's amazing that it's 50 years old, and this movie's still great all these decades later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it has a great cast. Yeah, the it's actually the shark is actually pretty scary. Has some gruesome deaths, and yeah, just everything about it just looks amazing. So yes, that's Jaws, and
And
it's even wilder that like this came out before Star Wars even came out and Indiana Jones.
yep,
So
even and yeah, some other films in the late '70s, the mid/late '70s that would come out after Jaws, and yeah, them being other iconic and big time films, and again, a lot of films in the '70s being game changers in the movie industry.
exactly.
Yeah, and to mention something else about Spielberg, because, well, for the 50th anniversary of Jaws, yeah, because Spielberg actually revisited and watched Jaws, and yeah, and he then stated after watching it that he admitted that he liked it and was able to enjoy the movie without the negative memories of the challenging production flooding back. And yeah, that's great to see. And I also, oh, I meant to bring this up. Just one more thing, because some of the props that survived from Jaws, well, most prominently, the Orca and also Ben Gardner's boat, they would be placed in the backlot tour of Universal Studios Hollywood in the Jaws section. And yeah, that being a highlight for the tourists to see those actual boats, and most prominently the Orca. But sometime around the early '90s, yeah, the Orca vanished from the tour, and so did Ben Gardner's boat. And Spielberg, he had once in a while had would always like go to the backlot tour and like spend some time in the Orca and such. But at one point, when he discovered and saw that yeah, the Orca was nowhere in sight, he called up the head of the backlot asking what happened to it, and to Spielberg's shock, and even like, yeah, this is shocking to anybody who would first know about this. And if that goes for you too, Anchorman, if you've not heard this, where Spielberg was told by the head of the back lot, well, yeah, because what happened to the Orca was it was rotting, and there were, dry rot, and there were termites. And what they did was they cut up the Orca using chainsaws, and they shipped it off for timber. And Spielberg, he went nuts over that. And he did feel bad for, and even stating that he felt very bad for all the things he said to that poor man who took his phone call. But at the same time, even though he was disappointed that the Orca was destroyed, and to think that that was done behind his back, like, geez, like, did it not occur to them that maybe they should have come to Spielberg and asked what they should do about the Orca? Maybe they could have refurbished it or something. Just yeah, it's baffling. But as I was saying, point being, Spielberg, despite him being upset of the destruction and the existence of the Orca being no more, it did help, take away the pain and struggles he went through. Like as he put at it, cutting the umbilical cord with all the struggle and pain he went through when filming Jaws. And not to mention, there was a second Orca that was built. Orca number two which was prominently used for shots where, yeah, the orca would constantly sink. Yeah, and well, that orca, it would it would find its like it would be purchased by, I think, yeah, someone who worked on Jaws, and I know Yesterworld most prominently talked about this. But point being is that orca number two was placed on this private beach, but because Jaws' popularity was growing, the fans of Jaws started to discover Orca number two, and they were basically trespassing. They got up close, they touched it, and they stripped off pieces of Orca 2 and selling them online, most prominently eBay. And the owner, being upset by this behavior, he cut up the Orca 2 in various tiny pieces. And what's interesting and awesome is that a with a Jaws limited Blu-ray release, yeah, it did feature those various pieces of Orca 2. That was pretty interesting. And as for Ben Gardner's boat, well, because I know, yeah, Yesterworld talked about that as well in a different video, but yeah, Ben Gardner's boat didn't have that much luck either because I don't think it went in the as I recall it didn't go in the same direction as those two orcas, because what happened was, yeah, obviously at some point Ben Gardner's boat just started to rot and so on, and then well, Ben Gardner's boat just being thrown in the dumpster. So yeah, so that's a shame that like two boats, well, for that matter, three boats from Jaws just being thrown away like nothing. Well, just not intentionally, I guess, but still, it's a shame.
That's an
Um,
interesting story.
yeah, did you not? So I take it you didn't know anything, you didn't know any of that until
Yeah,
now.
I did not know that.
Ah, well, there you go. And I feel like there was one other thing. I don't know. Well, I will point this out where one of the molds for Bruce the shark. There have been a few that have survived, but most prominently there was one that I think even still to this day, because like made its way to a Hollywood prop museum, and even I know Yesterworld also, yeah, he brought that up too. Just So luckily, so one of the last surviving mold casts of Bruce the Shark having survived, being one of those props in the movie industry to have first going through so much, but at the same time in the end managing to survive and having a happy ending and still existing. Just one of those things. Anyways, um but yeah, I think that's pretty much all I've got to say as of now. So the
Oh
last
yeah.
the last remaining things I wanted to bring up. So
So yeah, we've been going on for an hour.
yeah, I mean, and with how we were talking about Jaws, like it didn't even make its way up to 1 hour. But the more we talked about Jaws and other shark-related stuff, and talking more fun facts and behind the scenes and such of Jaws, yeah, up to this point, yeah, it's made its way to 1 hour, and that's pretty good. So,
So yeah, you got anything else to say? Or that's it.
nope, I'm pretty good. And what about you?
I think that's it for me. So I don't know. Thank you for coming on my channel.
Mm-hmm. Yep, anytime, bro, anytime. And the same goes for you. You always being welcome to whatever it is that we do on Blue Channel. Most prominently, us doing review collabs.
Yeah, our next review will probably be the season 5 finale of The Batman.
Yep, an early tease, because yeah, if you've got any of you who've been following Blue Channel, and of course, yeah, you've seen where Anchorman's guest starred in some videos, most prominently review collabs. Yeah, because we've been reviewing each month, all four seasons of the Batman, and sometime this month, yeah, we're then coming up to the fifth and final season, and after that, we'll still continue reviewing some other DC materials. In fact, I know I mentioned this to you, Anchorman, where yeah, we definitely we also should review Batman Caped Crusader.
Yeah, I've reviewed it on my channel, but I'd love to go more in depth with it on your channel.
Yeah, certainly, and actually, because another thing that we'll do after once we're finally done with the Batman and just like what we've done with the Batman is, yeah, because review all, each seasons of the Clone Wars.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Because as you recall, because I made that, there made a poll on the Little Blue channel on what me and you should review next, and apparently, because at first a lot of people were voting for the Ted series, but then it started to then be everyone voting for Clone Wars. So yeah,
Yeah, I'm excited to review the Clone Wars.
yep.
I
I
mean,
mean,
I've reviewed it on my channel, but I'd love to talk about it on your channel too.
yeah. Now, obviously, at some point we will review the Ted series, and until I watch the Ted series. So,
Yeah, definitely check it out. The Ted series,
hmm
also made by Universal.
well, of course, yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
So
Because
yeah,
yeah,
be on the
me,
lookout for that.
yeah, and also because yeah, very quickly because well, yeah, because me and Anchorman we'd already reviewed the two Ted films as well as A Million Ways to Die in the West, another film that's Seth MacFarlane's.
Yeah. So I don't know what the next video will be of us doing on this channel. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Yep, and we'll just have to wait and see like if anything that occurs to you that maybe you and I can do on your channel, and thus another live stream. Just we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, we shall wait and see.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.
Yep. Till next time, viewers,
Bye
and
bye.
happy 50th anniversary to Jaws.
Happy 50th anniversary.
You're
Farewell.
gonna need a bigger boat.